You finally get that promotion you worked years to achieve. The euphoria hits you like a wave, pure joy flooding through your system. Your friends congratulate you, your family beams with pride, and you feel like you have finally made it. But 6 months later, you find yourself sitting at your new desk feeling oddly empty. The excitement has worn off, and somehow, impossibly, you feel exactly as happy as you did before. That dream car you saved for sits in your garage, now just another vehicle that needs gas and maintenance. The perfect relationship that was supposed to complete you has become routine, filled with the same small irritations as any other. The house with the ocean view that took 20 years to afford? You barely notice the sunset anymore. This is not a personal failing. This is not weakness or ingratitude. This is your brain doing exactly what evolution designed it to do over millions of years. Psychologists call this phenomenon the hedonic treadmill, and it might be the most important psychological concept you have never fully understood. Think of a treadmill at the gym. You run and run, your legs pumping, heart racing, sweat pouring down your face. But despite all that effort, all that movement, you remain in exactly the same spot. This is what happens to our happiness levels throughout life. We chase achievements, accumulate possessions, reach milestones we thought would transform us, yet somehow we always end up back at our emotional starting point. What if I told you that achieving your biggest dreams might actually be a trap? Not because dreams are bad, but because we fundamentally misunderstand how happiness works in the human brain. What if the very pursuit of happiness through achievement is based on a massive illusion? An illusion so powerful that it drives our entire economy, shapes our life decisions, and determines how we spend our precious years on this planet. Part 1. The lottery winners who lost their joy. In 1978, 3 researchers from Northwestern University conducted a study that would shake our understanding of happiness forever. Philip Brickman, Dan Coates and Ronnie Janoff-Bullman set out to answer a simple question. What really happens to human happiness when dreams come true? They found 22 major lottery winners in Illinois, people who had won between $50,000 and $1 million. Remember, this was 1978 money, when you could buy a house for $30,000. These people had essentially won financial freedom overnight. The researchers interviewed these winners, asking detailed questions about their happiness levels. They asked about their past happiness, their current happiness, and how happy they expected to be in the future. They also asked about simple pleasures. Everyday moments like watching television, talking with friends, eating breakfast, hearing a funny joke or getting a compliment. The kind of small experiences that make up the texture of daily life. Then they interviewed a control group of 22 regular people from the same neighborhoods as the lottery winners. These were people living ordinary lives with ordinary bank accounts. Finally, and this is where the study gets truly profound, they interviewed 29 people who had suffered catastrophic accidents. These were individuals who had become paraplegic or quadriplegic, losing the use of their limbs forever. You would expect the results to be obvious, right? Lottery winners should be ecstatic, accident victims devastated, and regular people somewhere in the middle. But the human mind does not work the way we think it does. The lottery winners rated their current happiness at 4.0 on a 5-point scale. The regular people, 3.82, almost no difference at all. Think about that for a moment. People who had received enough money to never work again, to buy whatever they wanted, to solve their financial problems forever, were barely any happier than their neighbours, who were still grinding away at regular jobs. But here is where it gets even stranger. When asked about everyday pleasures, the lottery winners actually scored lower than the control group. They took less joy from a beautiful morning, less pleasure from a conversation with a friend, less satisfaction from a good meal. The researchers called this a contrast effect. Once you have experienced the extreme high of winning a fortune, ordinary pleasures pale by comparison. It is like eating the finest chocolate in the world and then trying to enjoy a regular candy bar. Your brain has recalibrated its expectations. What once brought joy now feels mundane. The psychological term for this is adaptation, and it happens faster than you might imagine. Studies show that major lottery winners typically experience intense happiness for about 2 months. 2 months! After decades of dreaming about wealth, after years of buying tickets and imagining how life would change, the actual emotional benefit lasts about as long as a summer vacation. Then the adaptation process kicks in. The mansion becomes just home. The sports car becomes just transportation. The freedom from work becomes boring routine. Meanwhile, the accident victims in the study showed something equally remarkable. Yes, their present happiness was lower at 2.96, but not nearly as low as you would predict. More surprisingly, when they recalled their past happiness before the accident, they rated it higher than the other groups rated their past. And their expected future happiness? It was 4.32, actually higher than the current happiness of lottery winners. These paralyzed individuals had found ways to adapt to their new reality. They discovered new sources of meaning, developed different pleasures, adjusted their expectations. The human capacity for psychological adaptation had worked in reverse, helping them recover from tragedy, just as it had prevented the lottery winners from maintaining their joy. This was not a fluke finding from one study. Researchers have replicated versions of this work countless times across cultures and decades. People adapt to marriage, usually returning to baseline happiness after 2 years. They adapt to divorce, typically recovering emotionally within 2 years. They adapt to the death of a spouse, though this takes longer, often 4 to 7 years. They even adapt to chronic health conditions, finding ways to be nearly as happy as healthy individuals. The implications are staggering. If winning millions barely moves the happiness needle, and if devastating injuries do not destroy life satisfaction permanently, then what does this say about how we pursue happiness? What does it mean for every decision we make based on the belief that achieving our goals will make us happier? We are chasing shadows, running toward mirages that dissolve the moment we reach them. Part 2. The dopamine lie. Your brain tells you. Your brain is lying to you about what will make you happy, and the culprit is a neurotransmitter called dopamine. For decades, scientists believed dopamine was the pleasure chemical, the thing that made you feel good when good things happened. They were completely wrong. What dopamine actually does is far more sinister and explains why you keep falling for the same happiness traps over and over again. When neuroscientist Kent Berridge started studying rats in his laboratory, he made a discovery that overturned everything we thought we knew about pleasure. He found that you could completely destroy the dopamine system in a rat's brain, reducing dopamine by 99%, and something strange would happen. The rats would still enjoy sugar water. Their facial expressions showed the same pleasure response, the same lip-licking and enjoyment. But they would not walk across the cage to get it. They had lost the motivation, not the ability to experience pleasure. This revealed a shocking truth about how our brains work. Dopamine does not create happiness or pleasure at all. Instead, it creates wanting, craving, the motivation to pursue things. It is the chemical of anticipation, not satisfaction. Think about the last time you desperately wanted something. That restless energy, that obsessive thinking, that feeling that you absolutely must have it. That was dopamine flooding your brain. Here is where it gets truly disturbing. Your brain releases far more dopamine when you are anticipating a reward than when you actually receive it. Brain scans show massive dopamine spikes when people are about to eat chocolate, but much smaller responses when they actually taste it. The same pattern appears with shopping, gambling, social media likes, everything we pursue for happiness. Your brain is literally designed to make you want things more than you enjoy having them. Scientists call this the wanting versus liking distinction, and it operates through completely different brain circuits. Liking, real pleasure and satisfaction, happens in tiny areas called hedonic hotspots. These are small regions in the nucleus accumbens and ventral pallidum, ancient parts of your brain. They use opioids and endocannabinoids, not dopamine, to generate actual enjoyment. These hotspots are surprisingly small, about 1 cubic centimetre in rats, probably not much bigger in humans. The machinery for true pleasure takes up less brain space than the machinery for wanting. This is why a drug addict will desperately crave cocaine, even when they no longer get any pleasure from it. The wanting system has been hijacked while the liking system has burned out. But here is the crucial insight. The same thing happens with normal rewards in everyday life. Your promotion, your new house, your perfect relationship, they all trigger massive wanting in advance but deliver much less liking than your brain predicted. Evolution designed this system for a good reason. Our ancestors who were satisfied with what they had would not survive. The ones who always wanted more food, better shelter, higher status, they were the ones who lived to pass on their genes. Satisfaction was dangerous. Constant wanting was survival. We are the descendants of the perpetually dissatisfied. Modern life exploits this ancient wiring ruthlessly. Every advertisement, every social media post, every lifestyle magazine is designed to trigger your wanting system. They show you what you could have, what others have, what you are missing. Your dopamine system responds exactly as evolution programmed it to, flooding you with desire. But the satisfaction you imagine is an illusion created by dopamine. The actual pleasure will be far less than the wanting suggests. Part 3. Your happiness set point is fixed. Scientists have discovered something unsettling about human happiness. You have a genetically determined set point for life satisfaction, like a thermostat setting in your brain. No matter what happens to you, good or bad, you will tend to return to this baseline level. And here is the uncomfortable truth. This set point is largely determined before you are even born. Researchers studied thousands of identical twins who were separated at birth and raised in completely different families. Some grew up rich, others poor. Some had loving families, others faced neglect. Some lived in peaceful suburbs, others in chaotic cities. Yet when scientists measured their happiness levels as adults, the identical twins were remarkably similar. Their happiness correlated at about 0.5, meaning 50% of their life satisfaction was predetermined by their genes. Think about what this means. Half of your capacity for happiness was decided at conception, encoded in your DNA, like your height or eye color. The other 50% comes from everything else, your choices, experiences, relationships, achievements, everything you think matters. But even that 50% is not as flexible as you might hope. A massive German study tracked 17,000 people for 17 years, measuring their life satisfaction annually. Most people stayed within a narrow range their entire lives. Only 25% showed any significant change in their happiness levels over nearly 2 decades. Just 9% experienced major shifts. For 75% of people, their happiness at 40 was essentially the same as at 23, regardless of what happened in between. This does not mean everyone has the same set point. Some people are naturally disposed to be happier, others to be less happy. Brain imaging shows that people with higher happiness set points have more grey matter in areas associated with emotional regulation. They have stronger connections between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. Their brains are literally wired differently for well-being. People with higher set points also have different patterns of brain activity at rest. They show more activity in the left prefrontal cortex, an area associated with positive emotions and approach behaviors. People with lower set points show more right prefrontal activity, associated with negative emotions and withdrawal. This pattern appears in infants and remains stable throughout life. Babies who cry more at 6 months old tend to be less happy adults 30 years later. Your set point influences how you perceive and remember events. People with higher set points literally see the world differently. In laboratory studies, they notice positive stimuli faster, remember good events more clearly, and forget negative experiences more quickly. Their brains are running a different operating system for processing reality. But here is where it gets even more profound. Your happiness set point affects what happens to you in life. Happier people attract more friends, perform better at work, earn more money, and have better health. So the rich get richer, emotionally speaking. People with higher set points create lives that reinforce their natural happiness advantage. Those with lower set points face more challenges that confirm their gloomier baseline. Part 4. Why Millionaires Feel Poor. In Beverly Hills, millionaires feel poor. In Manhattan penthouses, multimillionaires worry about money. This is not metaphor or exaggeration. Surveys of the ultra-wealthy reveal something bizarre. People with $25 million in assets report needing $50 million to feel secure. Those with $50 million believe they need $100 million. The number that would finally be enough always doubles from wherever they are. This phenomenon has a name in psychology: relative deprivation. Your brain does not evaluate your life in absolute terms, but in comparison to reference points. And those reference points shift constantly based on who is around you. A lawyer making $300,000 feels poor at a party full of investment bankers. The investment banker feels poor around tech founders. The tech founder feels poor compared to established billionaires. Researchers demonstrated this with a simple experiment. They asked people to choose between 2 scenarios. Would you rather earn $50,000 a year while everyone else earns $25,000? Or earn $100,000 while everyone else earns $200,000? The majority chose the first option. They would rather have less money in absolute terms as long as they had more than others. This is not just about money. The same pattern appears with attractiveness, intelligence, career success, even the happiness of our children. A study of Olympic athletes found that bronze medalists were happier than silver medalists. The silver medalists compared themselves to gold and felt like losers. The bronze medalists compared themselves to everyone who did not medal and felt like winners. Exact same achievement, opposite emotional experience, determined entirely by comparison. Social media has weaponized this psychological quirk. Your brain now compares your regular Tuesday to the highlight reels of hundreds or thousands of others. You see their vacations, promotions, perfect moments, while living your mundane reality. Studies show that every hour spent on social media correlates with decreased life satisfaction. Facebook use specifically predicts declining mental health over time. Instagram is even worse, especially for young women comparing their appearance to filtered, edited impossibilities. The neighborhood you live in affects your happiness more through comparison than through actual quality of life. Moving to a richer neighborhood often decreases life satisfaction, even though your absolute standard of living is higher. You went from being relatively well off to relatively poor without your income changing at all. Studies of lottery winners show the same effect. Winners who stayed in their old neighborhoods remained happier than those who moved to wealthy areas. Your brain is constantly, automatically making these comparisons below your conscious awareness. Neuroscientists can see it happening in brain scans. The same reward centers that respond to absolute gains also respond to relative gains. Getting a $5,000 raise when your coworker gets nothing activates reward circuits. The same raise when your coworker gets 10,000 activates pain circuits. Same money, opposite neurological response. Part 5. The adaptation machine in your head. Your nervous system is an adaptation machine, constantly adjusting to whatever becomes normal. This happens at every level, from individual neurons to complex psychological processes. Walk into a room with a strong smell, and within minutes you cannot detect it anymore. Your nose has not stopped working. Your brain has simply adapted, filtering out the now predictable stimulus. This same process happens with everything in your life. Psychologists call it habituation, and it is far more powerful than most people realize. Your brain literally changes its physical structure in response to repeated experiences. Neurons that fire frequently together strengthen their connections. Pathways that process familiar stimuli become more efficient, requiring less activation. What once required your full attention becomes background noise. Researchers can measure this adaptation in real time. They tracked people who bought new cars, measuring their emotional response every day. The first drive triggered massive activation in reward centers. By day 7, the response had dropped by half. By day 30, the brain barely registered anything special about the car. The $40,000 purchase had become neurologically worthless in a month. The speed of adaptation depends on the type of experience. We adapt quickly to changes in material possessions, income level, and living conditions. A study tracked people who moved from small apartments to large houses. Full adaptation took about 6 months. After that, they reported the same housing satisfaction as before the move. The extra space that seemed so important had become invisible. But we adapt slowly or incompletely to other changes. Chronic pain, noise pollution, and long commutes remain sources of unhappiness for years. The brain cannot fully filter out these experiences because they require constant attention or trigger threat detection systems. This is why buying a bigger house does not increase happiness, but shortening your commute does. You adapt to the house, but not to the daily traffic stress. Some experiences actually become better with repetition rather than worse. Researchers call this positive sensitization. Complex music becomes more enjoyable as your brain learns to predict and appreciate patterns. Deep friendships provide increasing satisfaction as shared history accumulates. Skill-based activities like playing an instrument or speaking a language become more rewarding as competence grows. These are rare exceptions to the hedonic treadmill. Your adaptation rate is also influenced by attention. The more you think about something, the slower you adapt to it. People who constantly remind themselves how lucky they are to have something maintain more pleasure from it. But this requires continuous mental effort that most people cannot sustain. The mental energy required to appreciate what you have fights against the brain's natural tendency to adapt and move on. Part 6. The Memory Distortion Effect. Your brain does not just adapt to present experiences. It actively rewrites your memories to support the hedonic treadmill. The happiness you remember from past achievements is not what you actually experienced. Your brain has edited those memories, creating a false narrative that keeps you running toward the next goal. Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize for his work on human judgment, discovered something disturbing about how we remember experiences. He called it the peak end rule. Your brain does not average the happiness from an experience. Instead, it remembers only the most intense moment and how the experience ended. Everything else gets deleted from the emotional memory. He proved this with an ingenious experiment involving colonoscopies. Some patients had a shorter procedure that ended painfully. Others had a longer procedure with the same painful moments, but doctors added a few minutes of mild discomfort at the end. The second group experienced objectively more total pain. But they remembered it as less painful because it ended better. Their brains had rewritten the memory based on the ending. This happens with positive experiences too. A 2-week vacation with 13 great days and 1 perfect day gets remembered as amazing. The same vacation with 13 great days but no peak moment gets remembered as merely good. Your brain compresses weeks of experience into a single emotional snapshot. This is why people spend fortunes on weddings. One peak experience overwrites months of stress and debt in memory. Even more troubling, your current mood affects how you remember past happiness. When researchers ask people to recall their happiness from 5 years ago, their answers depend more on today's mood than on how they actually felt 5 years ago. Happy people remember being happy. Unhappy people remember being unhappy. Your brain constantly revises history to match your present state. This memory distortion serves the hedonic treadmill perfectly. You remember the peak moment of getting your dream job, but forget the weeks of ordinary workdays that followed. You remember the joy of your wedding, but not the normal Tuesday evenings that make up most of marriage. These edited memories convince you that achievements bring lasting happiness, even though your own experience proves otherwise. The anticipation of future events gets similar distortion, but in reverse. When imagining future achievements, your brain focuses on the best possible moments and ignores adaptation. You imagine how great it will feel to get promoted, not how normal it will feel 3 months later. This is called affective forecasting error, and everyone does it. Even people who know about the hedonic treadmill still overestimate how happy future events will make them. Part 7. The Success Paradox. High achievers are particularly vulnerable to the hedonic treadmill, trapped by the very traits that drive their success. The personality characteristics that enable extraordinary achievement also guarantee perpetual dissatisfaction. Ambition, perfectionism, competitiveness, these are not paths to happiness. They are prescriptions for chronic discontent. Research on successful entrepreneurs reveals a troubling pattern. They report lower life satisfaction than employees at the same income level. The traits that enabled them to build companies, high need for achievement, internal locus of control, tolerance for uncertainty, also prevent them from enjoying success. They immediately shift focus to the next challenge, the next company, the next mountain to climb. Success becomes a moving target that accelerates away as they approach it. Studies of top athletes show similar findings. Olympic gold medalists often experience severe depression after their victory. They spent years focused on a single goal, sacrificing everything for that moment on the podium. When they achieve it, the absence of the next goal creates an existential void. Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian in history, has spoken about contemplating suicide after winning his medals. The ultimate success had led to ultimate emptiness. Academic overachievers face their own version of this trap. Students who tie their self-worth to grades and achievements show higher rates of anxiety and depression. Getting into Harvard does not make them happy. It makes them worried about maintaining their GPA at Harvard. Making law review does not bring satisfaction. It brings pressure to get the best clerkship. Each achievement just raises the bar for the next required success. The corporate world perfects this misery machine. Investment bankers working 100-hour weeks to make partner discover that partners work just as hard. Tech workers grinding for IPO windfalls find themselves still grinding after becoming millionaires. The finish line keeps moving. A study of Fortune 500 executives found that CEOs are no happier than middle managers, despite earning hundreds of times more. This is not coincidence. Organizations deliberately exploit the hedonic treadmill. They know that satisfied employees stop pushing themselves, so they create systems of perpetual striving. Annual reviews, forced rankings, up or out policies, constantly moving targets. The most successful companies are the best at keeping their employees on the treadmill. Silicon Valley did not become dominant through work-life balance. The cruelest part is that high achievers often know they are trapped but cannot stop running. They see the treadmill clearly but feel powerless to step off. Their identity has become fused with achievement. Without the next goal, the next win, the next validation, they do not know who they are. Success has become an addiction, complete with tolerance, withdrawal, and escalating doses needed for the same high. Part 8. The Relationship Illusion. Finding the right person will not save you from the hedonic treadmill. This might be the most painful truth about happiness adaptation. Love, marriage, the perfect partner, they all follow the same pattern as every other supposed source of lasting happiness. The butterflies die. The passion fades. Normal life reasserts itself. Scientists have mapped the neurochemistry of romantic love with disturbing precision. The early stage of romance floods your brain with dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. Brain scans of people in love look remarkably similar to brain scans of people on cocaine. The same reward circuits fire. The same addiction pathways activate. You literally become chemically dependent on your partner's presence. This intensity has an expiration date. The passionate love phase typically lasts between 6 months and 2 years. After that, the brain's receptors become desensitized. The same kiss that once triggered fireworks now barely registers. Researchers call this the transition from passionate to companionate love, but that is just a nice way of saying the drug has stopped working. Longitudinal studies tracking married couples are sobering. Marital satisfaction follows a predictable decline, dropping steeply in the first 4 years, then gradually thereafter. By year 7, most couples report satisfaction levels barely above their single baseline. The happiness boost from marriage essentially disappears. This happens regardless of income, education, or how in love couples claim to be initially. Having children, another supposed source of lasting fulfillment, shows even worse outcomes for happiness. Multiple studies across cultures find that parental satisfaction drops with the first child and does not recover until the children leave home. Parents report lower marital satisfaction, less sleep, more stress, and decreased life satisfaction compared to childless couples. The joy of parenting exists, but it is brief moments swimming in an ocean of exhaustion and worry. Yet people continue believing relationships will complete them. Singles imagine that finding someone will solve their unhappiness. Unhappy couples believe the problem is their specific partner, not the nature of adaptation itself. So they divorce, find someone new, experience the chemical rush again, and restart the cycle. Second marriages fail at even higher rates than first marriages. The treadmill continues with a different running partner. The most stable couples are not those who maintain passion, but those who accept its absence. They transition from dopamine-driven excitement to oxytocin-based attachment. This is less thrilling but more sustainable. It is the difference between a drug high and a warm blanket. Both have value, but only one can last. The tragedy is that most people never stop chasing the high. Part 9. Why money stops working. There is a number at which money stops buying happiness, and it is shockingly low. Researchers have found it with remarkable precision across hundreds of studies. In the United States, happiness increases with income up to about $75,000 per year. After that, the correlation essentially disappears. Millionaires are no happier than middle-class professionals. Billionaires score the same on life satisfaction as successful small business owners. This seems impossible when you are struggling financially. Surely having unlimited resources would eliminate stress and create lasting satisfaction. But the data is ruthlessly consistent. Once basic needs are met, once you have security and comfort, additional money does almost nothing for experienced happiness. A person making 500,000 experiences roughly the same amount of positive emotion daily as someone making 75,000. The reason is that money primarily buys things you adapt to. The new car becomes just transport. The bigger house becomes just home. The designer clothes become just clothes. Your brain adapts to material upgrades with devastating efficiency. Meanwhile, money often costs you things you do not adapt to losing. Time with family, health from overwork, peace of mind from financial complexity. Lottery winner studies show this dramatically. Major winners quit their jobs, buy dream homes, travel the world. Within 2 years, most report being no happier than before winning. Many report being less happy. They have lost their sense of purpose, damaged relationships with friends who now see them differently, become paranoid about people using them. The money solved their money problems, but created human problems that are harder to solve. The ultra-wealthy face unique happiness challenges. They suffer from what researchers call the paradox of choice on steroids. When you can afford anything, nothing feels special. When you can go anywhere, nowhere seems exciting. They lose the ability to want things, which paradoxically reduces life satisfaction. Anticipation and desire, even though they are treadmill drivers, provide more emotional texture than having everything. Studies of CEO compensation reveal the futility of the money chase. CEOs making 20 million are no more satisfied than those making 2 million. But they work longer hours, have worse health metrics and higher divorce rates. They have sacrificed things that matter for more of something that stopped mattering millions of dollars ago. Yet they continue accumulating, comparing themselves to other CEOs, running on a treadmill where the numbers get bigger but the happiness stays flat. Part 10. The Social Media Trap. Social media has transformed the hedonic treadmill from a personal challenge into a collective catastrophe. It has weaponized our adaptation mechanisms and comparison instincts at unprecedented scale. We are now running on millions of treadmills simultaneously, each one visible to everyone else, each one making us miserable in new and innovative ways. Every scroll through Instagram or Facebook exposes your brain to hundreds of comparison points. You see the vacation photos, but not the flight delays and family arguments. The promotion announcements, but not the grinding work weeks. The happy couple photos, but not the silence at dinner. Your brain, evolved for small tribe comparisons, tries to process these hundreds of curated lives and concludes you are failing. The statistics are damning. Heavy social media users report 20% lower life satisfaction than light users. Teenage depression rates have doubled since smartphones became ubiquitous. Suicide rates among young people track almost perfectly with social media adoption curves. We have created a technology that makes humans measurably more miserable, and we cannot stop using it. The mechanism is insidious. Each like, comment or share triggers a small dopamine hit. Your brain learns to crave these micro-validations, but like any drug, tolerance builds quickly. The 100 likes that thrilled you last year feel disappointing today. You need more engagement, more validation, more proof that you matter. The treadmill speeds up with each post. Influencers, the supposed winners of social media, report shocking levels of anxiety and depression. They live in constant fear of losing relevance, of the algorithm changing, of saying something wrong. They cannot enjoy experiences without documenting them. Every moment becomes content. Every interaction becomes performance. They have achieved what millions dream of, social media fame, and discovered it is a prison of perpetual personal branding. The comparison problem has mutated beyond recognition. You no longer compare yourself to your neighbours or co-workers. You compare yourself to the highlight reels of thousands of strangers, the perfect bodies of filtered models, the wealth of trust fund influencers, the happiness of people who are literally paid to appear happy. Your brain processes these impossible standards as your peer group. Evolution never prepared us for this. Part 11. The Achievement Addiction. Achievement functions exactly like a drug in your brain, complete with tolerance, withdrawal, and escalating doses needed for the same high. This is not metaphor. Neuroscientists have found that accomplishing goals activates the same reward circuits as cocaine, releases the same neurotransmitters, and creates the same dependency patterns. Success is literally addictive. The first achievement high is the strongest. Remember your first significant accomplishment. Making the team, getting into college, landing your first real job. The euphoria was intense, lasting days or weeks. But each subsequent achievement requires more significance to produce the same feeling. The promotion that would have thrilled you at 25 barely registers at 40. Your brain has developed tolerance. High achievers show all the classic signs of addiction. They experience withdrawal when not pursuing goals, feeling empty, anxious and restless. They sacrifice relationships and health for the next achievement fix. They continue achieving despite negative consequences. They lie about their work hours, hide their obsession, justify their behavior with elaborate rationalizations. The only difference from drug addiction is social approval. Studies of goal pursuit show disturbing parallels to substance abuse research. People in the midst of achieving a major goal show decreased activity in brain regions associated with empathy and social connection. They become temporarily sociopathic, willing to harm others for success. Their moral reasoning shifts to justify previously unacceptable behavior. The goal becomes more important than the person they thought they were. The withdrawal phase is particularly brutal. Post-achievement depression is a recognized psychological phenomenon. Astronauts returning from space, athletes after Olympics, entrepreneurs after selling companies, they all report the same crushing emptiness. The brain, deprived of its achievement drug, enters a kind of mourning. Many immediately start planning the next achievement to escape this feeling. The cycle continues. Treatment centers for work addiction are opening worldwide, using the same protocols as drug rehabilitation. They force executives to detox from email, teach them to tolerate being unproductive, help them find identity beyond achievement. The relapse rates are similar to those for cocaine. Most return to their achieving behaviors within months. The difference is that society celebrates their relapse as getting back on track. Part 12. The Gratitude Myth. Everyone says gratitude is the answer to the Hedonic Treadmill. Practice gratitude daily and you will appreciate what you have. Keep a gratitude journal, they say. Count your blessings. But the research on gratitude interventions reveals an uncomfortable truth. They work briefly, then stop working, becoming just another thing we adapt to. Initial studies on gratitude practices showed promising results. People who wrote down 3 things they were grateful for each day reported higher life satisfaction. But follow-up research revealed the effect fades quickly. After 2 weeks, the boost disappears. After a month, gratitude journaling can actually decrease happiness as it becomes a chore. The brain adapts to gratitude itself. This happens because forced gratitude often highlights what you lack. Trying to feel grateful for your health reminds you it could fail. Appreciating your relationship highlights its imperfections. Being thankful for your job makes you think about better jobs. The comparison machinery in your brain cannot be turned off by willpower. It just finds new things to compare. Gratitude researchers have found that natural gratitude and manufactured gratitude activate different brain regions. Spontaneous appreciation engages reward circuits and releases dopamine. Forced gratitude activates areas associated with cognitive control and suppression. You are literally fighting your brain's natural processes. This is exhausting and unsustainable. It's like trying to be permanently surprised by something familiar. The gratitude industry has become a billion-dollar business selling the illusion of a treadmill exit. Gratitude apps, journals, workshops, retreats, all promising to help you appreciate what you have. But they're just adding another task to your self-improvement treadmill. Now you are not just failing to be happy with your achievements. You are also failing to be grateful enough for them. The treadmill has grown a second level. Studies of naturally grateful people, those who score high on trait gratitude without intervention, show they are not immune to adaptation. They adapt to positive events just as quickly as everyone else. The difference is they experience more frequent small positive events because they notice them, but each individual event still fades. They are not off the treadmill, they are just running on one with prettier scenery. Part 13. The Purpose Deception. Find your purpose and you will find lasting fulfillment, the self-help books promise. Do what you love and you will never work a day in your life. But research on people who have found their calling reveals another layer of the hedonic treadmill. Purpose-driven work becomes just work. Passion fades into routine. Even meaning adapts away. Studies of people in purposeful careers, teachers, doctors, social workers, show surprising patterns. Their initial years are filled with meaning and satisfaction. They feel they are making a difference, changing lives, fulfilling their purpose. But within 5 years, most report the same job satisfaction as people in supposedly meaningless corporate jobs. The sense of purpose has adapted to baseline. Saving lives has become just another Tuesday. Artists and musicians, people literally living their dreams, show even more dramatic adaptation. Professional musicians report lower happiness than amateurs. The act of turning passion into profession kills the joy. What was once escape becomes obligation. What was once expression becomes product. The thing they loved becomes the thing they have to do to pay rent. Non-profit workers, despite doing objectively meaningful work, have the same burnout rates as investment bankers. The children they are helping become statistics. The cause they are fighting for becomes bureaucracy and grant applications. The purpose that drove them to accept lower pay stops, compensating for the financial stress. They end up on job search sites like everyone else, looking for something that pays better. Even religious callings follow this pattern. Studies of monks and nuns find that the spiritual high of dedicating life to God fades within 2 years. Prayer becomes routine. Meditation becomes boring. The monastery becomes just another workplace with annoying colleagues and petty politics. They maintain their practice through discipline, not the divine connection that initially called them. The cruelest part is that finding your purpose creates its own treadmill. Now you need to have impact, make a difference, leave a legacy. The teacher needs to reach more students. The doctor needs to save more lives. The artist needs greater recognition. Purpose becomes another achievement to optimize, another source of comparison and inadequacy. You have escaped the money treadmill only to find yourself on the meaning treadmill, running just as hard toward a horizon that keeps receding. Part 14. The Experience Economy Lie. Buy experiences, not things, became the millennial mantra for escaping materialism. Travel, concerts, restaurants, adventures, these would provide lasting happiness that possessions could not. An entire economy emerged around selling experiences as the answer to the hedonic treadmill. But the research reveals that experiences follow the same adaptation pattern as material goods, just with better marketing. The initial studies seemed promising. People reported more lasting satisfaction from vacations than from purchases. But these studies had a fatal flaw. They were measuring memory, not actual happiness. When researchers tracked people during experiences versus during product use, the happiness levels were identical. The vacation was not making people happier than the new TV. They just remembered it more fondly. This memory bias happens because experiences are harder to compare. You can directly compare your car to your neighbor's car. But your trip to Thailand versus their trip to Peru? The comparison is muddier, allowing your brain to declare victory. Experiences also benefit from what psychologists call rosy retrospection. The miserable parts fade while the highlights intensify in memory. That camping trip where it rained becomes an adventure story, not the muddy ordeal you actually endured. Travel, the ultimate experience purchase, shows particularly stark adaptation. Frequent travellers report no higher life satisfaction than homebodies. The 100th sunset in paradise triggers less neural response than the first sunset in your backyard. Travel bloggers and digital nomads, living what millions dream of, report high rates of depression and loneliness. They have turned peak experiences into routine, destroying their power. The experience economy has created its own comparison treadmill. Social media fills with adventure photos, creating experience FOMO. Your local weekend feels pathetic compared to someone's Bali retreat. Restaurants become Instagram performances rather than meals. Concerts are watched through phone screens to capture content. The experience itself becomes secondary to documenting it for social validation. Even worse, the pressure to maximize experiences creates anxiety that undermines enjoyment. Every vacation must be optimized, every weekend planned, every moment productive. People report feeling exhausted by their leisure, stressed by their fun. They have replaced the work treadmill with an experience treadmill, running through bucket lists instead of to-do lists. The hedonic adaptation continues, just in more exotic locations. Part 15. The Mindfulness Trap. Mindfulness was supposed to be the ultimate escape from the hedonic treadmill. Live in the present moment, fully experience what is happening now, stop chasing future happiness. Meditation apps promise peace, presence, and lasting contentment. But longitudinal studies of meditators reveal that even mindfulness becomes something we adapt to. Beginning meditators often experience profound shifts. Colours seem brighter, food tastes better, ordinary moments become magical. The present moment feels like a revelation after years of mental time travel. But talk to someone who has meditated daily for 5 years. The magic has faded. Meditation has become another morning routine, like brushing teeth. The present moment is just another moment. Brain scans of long-term meditators show fascinating adaptations. The initial changes in brain structure, increased grey matter in attention areas, thicker prefrontal cortex do continue. But the subjective experience flatlines. The meditator's brain has adapted to its new normal. What once felt like awakening now feels ordinary. They are still on the treadmill, just running more mindfully. Meditation retreats demonstrate this perfectly. Participants report blissful states, profound insights, ego dissolution. But within weeks of returning home, they are back to baseline. The retreat high fades like any other high. Many become retreat junkies, chasing increasingly intensive experiences. 10-day retreats stop working, so they try 30 days. Then 3 months. The dose keeps escalating. The mindfulness industry has recognized this adaptation problem and pivoted accordingly. Now there are advanced techniques, new traditions to explore, deeper states to achieve. Mindfulness has been gamified, with apps tracking streaks and giving badges. Meditation has become another form of achievement, complete with levels, teachers, and competitions. People compare their meditation practices, their retreat experiences, their states of consciousness. The treadmill continues in lotus position. Studies of Buddhist monks, the supposed masters of contentment, are sobering. They score higher on baseline happiness than average people, but not dramatically so. They still experience adaptation to positive and negative events. They still show activation in reward circuits when gaining something. Decades of meditation have not freed them from the hedonic treadmill. They have just learned to be more accepting of running on it. Perhaps that acceptance is the best we can hope for. Part 16. The Fitness Delusion. Exercise will make you happy, every lifestyle guru promises. Get in shape and you will feel amazing, confident, accomplished. But the research on fitness and happiness reveals the same inexorable pattern. The runner's high becomes the runner's normal. The gym achievement becomes invisible. Even your transformed body becomes just your body. Studies tracking people through fitness transformations are deflating. Those who lose significant weight report temporary happiness, boosts lasting about 3 months. After that, they return to baseline life satisfaction, often lower than before. They have discovered that the thin person they imagined becoming still has all their original problems. The weight was not the real issue, it was just the most visible one. Marathon runners exemplify this perfectly. Training for your first marathon provides months of purpose, structure, and anticipation. Crossing that finish line triggers euphoria that runners chase forever, but the second marathon feels less special. By the 10th, it is just another Sunday-long run. Ultramarathoners, having adapted to regular marathons, now run 100-mile races seeking that original high. The distances get longer, but the satisfaction stays flat. Bodybuilders show the most extreme adaptation. They achieve physiques that most people dream of, then stand in mirrors seeing only flaws. This is not just vanity or body dysmorphia. Their brains have literally adapted to their appearance. Studies show that people become accurately calibrated to their own attractiveness within weeks. What once seemed impossible becomes the new normal, and normal is never enough. The fitness industry exploits this adaptation brilliantly. There is always a new goal, a lower body fat percentage, a faster time, a heavier lift. Fitbits and apps gamify exercise with streaks and achievements. Social media fitness influencers showcase ever more extreme physiques and workouts. The bar keeps rising. What was fit in the 1980s looks average today. What is fit today will look average tomorrow. Even the health benefits adapt away psychologically. People who transform their health report feeling no different day to day than when they were unhealthy. The absence of disease does not register as presence of wellness. You cannot feel your clean arteries or appreciate your stable blood sugar. Health is only noticeable when it fails. The rest of the time it is just background functioning you take for granted. Part 17. The Parenting Paradox. Children will give your life meaning, society insists. They will love you unconditionally, provide purpose, create lasting joy. But the largest studies ever conducted on parental happiness paint a different picture. Parents are measurably less happy than non-parents across every metric researchers have tested. The meaning children provide does not translate into life satisfaction. The data is consistent across cultures and decades. Parents report lower marital satisfaction, more financial stress, less sleep, reduced freedom, and decreased moment-to-moment happiness. The happiness gap is largest when children are young, but persists until they leave home. Empty nest syndrome is real, but it is often accompanied by a happiness rebound. Parents finally return to their pre-child baseline 20 years later. The adaptation to parenthood is particularly cruel. The miracle of your first child's birth, that overwhelming love and awe, fades within months. Changing diapers becomes tedious. Sleepless nights become torture. The child you desperately wanted becomes the reason you cannot do anything you want to do. Love remains, but it exists alongside exhaustion, frustration, and resentment. Parents adapt to their children's milestones with shocking speed. The first word, first step, first day of school trigger joy that dissipates within days. By the second child, these milestones barely register. Parents of multiple children report that each subsequent child provides less happiness boost than the previous one. The hedonic treadmill applies even to creating human life. The comparison problem intensifies with children. Parents compare their kids to others, their parenting to impossible standards, their family life to social media fiction. Every developmental delay triggers anxiety. Every behavioral problem feels like personal failure. The stakes feel ultimate because they involve another human's future. The treadmill becomes not just personal but intergenerational. Studies of parents whose children achieve great success are particularly revealing. Parents of valedictorians, professional athletes and CEOs report no higher life satisfaction than parents of average children. They have adapted to their child's achievements just as they adapted to their own. The pride fades. The bragging rights become boring. They find new things to worry about, new ways their successful children could be even more successful. Part 18. The Retirement Trap. Retirement represents the ultimate finish line for most people's hedonic treadmill. Work your whole life, save money, then finally enjoy lasting happiness in your golden years. But longitudinal studies of retirees reveal that retirement follows the same adaptation pattern as every other supposed happiness destination. The freedom becomes routine. The leisure becomes boring. Paradise becomes purgatory. The first 6 months of retirement often do bring happiness increases. No alarm clocks, no meetings, no deadlines. Retirees report feeling liberated, relaxed, finally able to pursue interests. But by year 2, life satisfaction has typically returned to pre-retirement levels or lower. The absence of work stress is replaced by absence of purpose. The freedom from schedule becomes aimlessness. Wealthy retirees who can afford any lifestyle show the starkest adaptation. They travel extensively for a year or two, then find travel exhausting. They golf daily until golf becomes a chore. They buy vacation homes that sit empty. Studies show that retirees with 20 million in assets report the same daily happiness as those with 2 million. Once you can afford comfort, additional millions buy nothing emotionally. The social aspects of retirement are particularly challenging. Work, despite its stresses, provided social connection, status and identity. Retirees lose their professional networks, their sense of importance, their answer to what do you do. Men especially struggle with this loss of identity. Depression rates spike in the first 3 years after retirement. The dream of freedom has become isolation. Many retirees end up recreating work-like structures to cope. They volunteer with the same intensity they once worked. They create elaborate routines and schedules. They find part-time jobs not for money, but for purpose. They have escaped the work treadmill only to rebuild it in retirement. The need to strive, to progress, to achieve something continues regardless of age or wealth. Studies of people who achieve financial independence, retire early, are especially sobering. These individuals saved aggressively to retire in their 30s or 40s. Within 2 years, most report being no happier than when working. Many return to work not for financial need but for psychological survival. They discovered that the problem was not the job. The problem was being human, and that cannot be retired from. Part 19. The Enlightenment Industry. Personal development has become a $40 billion industry selling escape routes from the hedonic treadmill. Each new method promises to be different. The final answer, the real solution. But studies of people who immerse themselves in self-improvement show they end up on a meta-treadmill. They are now running toward becoming someone who does not need to run. The pattern is predictable. Someone discovers a new system, whether therapy, coaching, or spiritual practice. Initial breakthroughs feel transformative. Old patterns seem to dissolve. Life feels different, better, more authentic. But within months, the new normal establishes itself. The breakthrough becomes background. They start searching for the next level, the next teacher, the next transformation. Life coaches and their clients demonstrate this perfectly. Coaching can produce real changes in behavior and outcomes. But life satisfaction improvements rarely last beyond the coaching relationship. Clients achieve their goals, then need new goals. They optimize their lives, then need to optimize the optimization. Many become coaches themselves, teaching others to escape a trap they are still in. Therapy shows similar patterns. People spend years in analysis, understanding their patterns, healing trauma, developing insight. This can reduce suffering and improve functioning, but it rarely produces lasting happiness increases. Therapists themselves have the same happiness levels as everyone else. Understanding the treadmill intellectually does not free you from running on it emotionally. The spiritual marketplace offers endless enlightenment products, ayahuasca ceremonies, energy healing, past life regression, each promising breakthrough transformation. Participants report profound experiences, cosmic insights, ego death. But follow-up studies find negligible lasting changes in life satisfaction. The mystical experience becomes memory. Daily life reasserts itself. They sign up for the next ceremony, the next retreat, the next promise of transcendence. Even genuine wisdom traditions get commodified into treadmills. Buddhism becomes productivity hacking. Stoicism becomes career optimization. Psychedelics become performance enhancement. Every practice meant to free us from striving becomes something to strive for. The very attempt to escape the treadmill becomes another treadmill, marketed with better branding and higher prices. Part 20. The Happiness Research Irony. Happiness researchers, the scientists who study the hedonic treadmill, are no happier than anyone else. This might be the ultimate proof that knowledge alone cannot free us. These people dedicate their careers to understanding human well-being. They know every study, every intervention, every trick. Yet surveys show they have typical happiness levels for their income and education. Knowing how the prison works does not open the door. Martin Seligman, founder of positive psychology, has written about his own struggles with depression. Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize for revealing human cognitive biases, admitted he fell for the same biases. Sonia Lyubomirsky, who literally wrote the book on happiness science, reports normal life satisfaction. These brilliant minds have mapped the treadmill in exquisite detail while still running on it. The research community has studied itself with embarrassing results. Professors who get tenure show temporary happiness increases that fade within 2 years. Nobel Prize winners report no lasting satisfaction from the highest academic honor. Scientists who make breakthrough discoveries adapt to them like lottery winners adapt to money. The pinnacle of intellectual achievement provides no escape from hedonic adaptation. Publishing happiness research creates its own treadmill. Researchers need novel findings, significant results, media attention. They compete for grants, citations, speaking engagements. They experience the same professional pressures and comparisons as corporate workers. Studying happiness has become just another competitive career with its own status hierarchies and dissatisfactions. The interventions that researchers develop show diminishing returns even for them. They try their own gratitude exercises, meditation practices, and strength interventions. Initial benefits fade like they do for everyone else. They know exactly why the benefits fade, the neurological mechanisms, the psychological processes. But understanding adaptation does not prevent adaptation. Knowledge is not immunity. Some researchers have become nihilistic about their own field. They continue studying happiness while believing lasting increases are impossible. They publish papers on interventions they know will stop working. They give talks on well-being while privately accepting the futility. They have seen behind the curtain and found only more curtains. The science of happiness has become a monument to its own impossibility. Part 21. The Cultural Programming. Every culture programs its citizens to run on specific treadmills, then calls it tradition, values, or the good life. Americans chase individual achievement and call it the American dream. Japanese pursue group harmony and call it wa. Indians seek spiritual liberation and call it moksha. Each culture believes its treadmill leads somewhere while others are running in circles. They are all running in circles. Anthropologists studying happiness across cultures find the same adaptation patterns everywhere. Bhutanese farmers adapt to their simple life satisfaction. Manhattan executives adapt to their complex life stress. Both report similar happiness ranges. The content differs, but the process is identical. Every culture has created elaborate justifications for why their particular form of striving is meaningful. Immigration studies reveal how quickly people adopt new cultural treadmills. Within one generation, immigrants' happiness levels match their new country's average. The children of refugees from war zones report typical teenage angst. The grandchildren of famine survivors worry about their Instagram followers. Extreme suffering and extreme privilege both fade into whatever becomes normal. Traditional cultures that Westerners romanticize show the same hedonic adaptation. Remote tribes without modern technology are not happier than city dwellers. They adapt to their hunter-gatherer lifestyle just as we adapt to our digital one. They have fewer choices, but also fewer expectations. The hedonic treadmill predates industrial civilization by millions of years. We did not create it. We just gave it fancier decorations. Religious cultures that prioritize afterlife rewards show fascinating patterns. Believers are slightly happier than non-believers, but not because of their faith itself. The happiness comes from community, routine and meaning structures. Monks and nuns, despite dedicating everything to God, show typical adaptation to their spiritual practices. Even the promise of eternal paradise does not eliminate present dissatisfaction. The treadmill continues while waiting for heaven. Modern culture has accelerated the treadmill to inhuman speeds. What took generations to achieve now takes years. What took years now takes months. The adaptation that once happened over lifetimes now happens in weeks. We have optimized dissatisfaction, scaled striving, and democratized disappointment. Everyone can now fail to find happiness at unprecedented rates. Part 22. The Gender Divide. Men and women run on different but equally futile treadmills, each gender convinced the other has it easier. Research reveals that both sexes follow identical adaptation patterns but to different achievements. Men adapt to career success and financial gains. Women adapt to relationship milestones and family achievements. Both end up at the same happiness levels through different paths of disappointment. Studies of high-achieving women reveal unique struggles with the hedonic treadmill. They face the traditional female expectations plus modern career pressures. The successful female executive with a perfect family adapts to both accomplishments. She feels no more satisfied than her stay-at-home neighbour or her single colleague. Having it all becomes normal, and normal is never enough. Men show faster adaptation to financial success, but slower adaptation to relationship changes. A promotion barely registers after 3 months. But divorce continues affecting men's happiness years longer than women's. Men derive less lasting satisfaction from career achievements they are told to prioritize. They sacrifice relationships for success that does not deliver the promised fulfillment. The beauty treadmill affects women with particular cruelty. Studies show beautiful women are no happier than average-looking women after age 25. They have adapted to the attention, the advantages, the options. Meanwhile, they face unique pressures to maintain appearance and anxiety about aging. The blessing everyone assumes would bring happiness becomes a source of stress that provides no actual satisfaction advantage. Male status hierarchies create their own adaptation nightmares. The alpha male with wealth, power and attraction adapts to his position within 2 years. He experiences no more daily happiness than the average man, but he cannot stop competing because his identity depends on dominance. He runs on a treadmill where slowing down means losing everything, but speeding up brings nothing. Dating apps have gamified gender treadmills into dystopian efficiency. Women swipe through endless options, adapting to attention that would have seemed impossible decades ago. Men compete in a digital hierarchy where 80% are invisible. Both genders report lower relationship satisfaction than before apps existed. Technology has made finding partners easier and happiness from partnerships rarer. We have optimized the search while destroying the satisfaction. Part 23. The Intelligence Curse. Smart people are no happier than average people and in many ways suffer more from the hedonic treadmill. Intelligence allows you to achieve more, earn more, and understand more. But you adapt to these advantages just as quickly as anyone adapts to anything. Worse, intelligence makes you more aware of the treadmill while providing no ability to escape it. Studies of gifted children followed into adulthood are sobering. These high IQ individuals achieve more degrees, patents and publications than average. But their life satisfaction is identical to normal intelligence peers. They have adapted to their cognitive abilities like tall people adapt to height. What seems like a superpower to others is just their normal, bringing no special happiness. Intelligence correlates with overthinking, which accelerates adaptation. Smart people analyze their achievements until they seem ordinary. They find flaws in their successes, problems in their solutions. They can argue themselves out of any satisfaction. The same cognitive ability that enables achievement prevents enjoyment of achievement. They think their way out of happiness. Highly intelligent people face unique comparison problems. They compare themselves to history's geniuses, to Nobel laureates, to intellectual giants. The professor with 3 degrees feels inadequate next to Einstein. The successful researcher feels like a failure for not curing cancer. Intelligence expands awareness of what is possible, making actual accomplishments feel insufficient. The burden of potential haunts intelligent people particularly. They know they could achieve more, understand more, contribute more. Every choice represents vast opportunity costs they can calculate precisely. The awareness of unlived lives, unwritten books, unsolved problems creates a unique form of suffering. They adapt to their achievements while remaining acutely aware of what they have not achieved. Studies of Mensa members, the high IQ society, find no happiness advantage and higher rates of anxiety and depression. These brilliant minds gather to discuss their struggles with meaning and satisfaction. They understand the hedonic treadmill perfectly, can explain its evolutionary origins and neurological mechanisms. Then they go home and suffer from it like everyone else. Intelligence provides insight without relief, understanding without escape. Part 24. The Creativity Trap. Creative people face a particularly vicious version of the hedonic treadmill. Every creation becomes old the moment it is complete. The song that consumed months to perfect becomes boring to its creator upon release. The novel that felt like giving birth becomes embarrassing to read later. Artists must constantly create new work because they rapidly adapt to existing work, but audiences adapt too. Studies of professional artists reveal devastating adaptation patterns. The painter adapts to their style and feels compelled to evolve. But audiences adapted to the old style and resist change. The musician's breakthrough album becomes a prison of expectations. They cannot repeat it without being derivative or depart from it without losing fans. Success in creative fields means becoming trapped by what you created. The validation cycle for creators is particularly addictive and unsatisfying. Initial recognition triggers massive dopamine releases. But each subsequent achievement needs to be bigger for the same neurological response. The local gallery showing leads to regional, then national, then international. But the artist feels the same at the Guggenheim as they did at the coffee shop. The venues get grander, but the satisfaction stays flat. Creative comparison is uniquely painful. Every artist compares themselves to geniuses in their field and finds themselves lacking. The novelist compares themselves to Shakespeare, the composer to Mozart. But they also compare themselves to contemporary peers, to viral sensations, to commercial successes. There is always someone more talented, more recognized, more authentic. The creative treadmill has infinite lanes, all visible, all moving at different speeds. Studies of highly successful creators are the most depressing. Oscar winners show no lasting happiness increase from the highest honor in film. Grammy winners report the same life satisfaction as unknown musicians. Best-selling authors adapt to their success within months. The dream achievement that motivated years of struggle becomes a line on a resume. Many report that success ruined their relationship with their art, turning passion into product. The creative process itself involves constant adaptation. The excitement of a new idea fades as execution begins. The flow state that feels transcendent becomes harder to achieve. Each project follows the same emotional arc from enthusiasm through struggle to anticlimax. Creators become addicted to starting new projects because only novelty provides relief from adaptation. But they adapt to novelty itself, needing ever more radical departures to feel anything. Part 25. The Technology Acceleration. Technology has not freed us from the hedonic treadmill. It has computerized it, optimized it, and increased its speed exponentially. Every innovation that promises to make life easier and happier instead creates new forms of adaptation and dissatisfaction. We now run on digital treadmills that never stop, never slow, and are visible to everyone. Smartphones were supposed to connect us and simplify our lives. Instead, they created infinite comparison opportunities and constant stimulation we rapidly adapt to. The miracle of having all human knowledge in your pocket became normal within months. Now a slow internet connection triggers more frustration than no internet once did. We have adapted to magic and feel miserable when the magic lags. Each technological improvement follows the same pattern. High-speed internet was amazing until it became normal. Now anything slower is unbearable. Streaming services eliminated video store trips, but now we spend 40 minutes browsing infinite options. Food delivery apps removed friction from ordering, so now cooking feels like unacceptable effort. Every convenience becomes a new baseline below which we cannot tolerate falling. Dating apps promise to solve loneliness by expanding options. Instead, they created a paradox of choice, where everyone adapts to abundance. Having access to thousands of potential partners makes no single person feel special. The match that would have thrilled you before apps now feels disappointing. You wonder who else is out there, who you are missing, whether you can do better. The apps solved the access problem but created an appreciation problem. Virtual reality, the newest promise of experiential transcendence, shows early signs of the same pattern. Initial users report mind-blowing experiences that fade within weeks. The virtual vacation becomes less satisfying than anticipated. The virtual social interactions feel hollow after the novelty fades. We are adapting to virtual experiences as quickly as real ones because the adaptation happens in our brains, not in the external world. Artificial intelligence promises to eliminate drudgery and free us for fulfillment, but early adoption shows familiar patterns. People using AI to automate work report initial excitement followed by rapid normalization. The time saved does not translate to happiness gained. It just creates pressure to produce more, achieve more, optimize further. We are automating tasks faster than we can appreciate the automation. Part 26. The Death Denial. The ultimate hedonic treadmill is our relationship with mortality. We adapt to the fact of death through elaborate denial, living as if we are immortal while knowing we are not. This adaptation allows us to function but guarantees a fundamental dissatisfaction. We run on treadmills pretending they lead somewhere other than the grave. Studies of people with terminal diagnoses reveal unexpected adaptation patterns. After initial shock and grief, most return to baseline happiness levels within 6 months. They adapt to dying like people adapt to living. The knowledge that time is limited does not produce lasting appreciation for remaining time. Terminal patients report the same daily mood patterns as healthy people. Even approaching death becomes normal. Near-death experiences that supposedly transform people show typical adaptation curves. Survivors report initial periods of gratitude and perspective that fade within 2 years. The clarity about what really matters gets clouded by daily concerns. The promise to live differently gradually gives way to old patterns. They end up back on the same treadmills, just with a dramatic story about almost getting off. The death of loved ones follows predictable adaptation trajectories. Intense grief typically lessens after 6 months, stabilizing near baseline by 2 years. People feel guilty about adapting, as if happiness dishonors the deceased. But the brain adapts to loss as reliably as it adapts to gain. The empty chair becomes normal. The absence becomes presence. Life continues its patterns with one less participant. Awareness of mortality motivates the treadmill rather than stopping it. Knowing life is short makes people run harder, not step off. They pursue bucket lists, legacy projects, meaning making ventures. The approach of death accelerates striving rather than enabling acceptance. The treadmill speeds up as time runs out, a final sprint toward a finish line that is also an ending. Even those who claim to have accepted death show behavioral evidence of denial. They make future plans, save for retirement, act as if tomorrow is guaranteed. This is adaptive denial, allowing function despite futility. But it means we never fully experience our finite reality. We are always adapting to death without ever actually accepting it. The ultimate adaptation is to never fully adapt. Part 27. The Wisdom Paradox. Wisdom, the supposed compensation for aging, does not protect against the hedonic treadmill. Older people who have witnessed decades of adaptation cycles still fall for the same illusions. They know from experience that achievements do not bring lasting happiness, yet they continue advising young people to achieve. They have learned the truth but cannot live it. Studies of life satisfaction across ages reveal a U-shaped curve. Happiness is high in youth, drops in middle age, then rises again in old age. But this is not wisdom defeating the treadmill. It is lowered expectations finally matching reality. Older people are not happier because they have figured something out. They are happier because they have given up on becoming happier. Elderly people looking back on their lives show predictable regret patterns. They wish they had worked less, loved more, taken more risks. But when young, they made the same choices everyone makes. They ran on the same treadmills despite advice from their elders. Now they give advice that the next generation will also ignore. Wisdom is knowing the treadmill is futile while watching others run anyway. The accumulation of experience does not translate to accumulated happiness. The person who has travelled the world is no more satisfied than the person who stayed home. The serial entrepreneur is no happier than the lifetime employee. More experiences just means more things to adapt to. The elderly have not transcended the treadmill. They have just run on it longer. Philosophers and spiritual teachers who dedicate their lives to understanding happiness show the same patterns. They write profound books about contentment while struggling with their own dissatisfaction. They teach acceptance while striving for recognition. They preach presence while planning their next lecture. Understanding the treadmill philosophically does not stop its mechanical operation. Wisdom is just another achievement to adapt to. The greatest wisdom might be accepting that wisdom does not help. The elderly are not secretly happy, harbouring some knowledge that would save us. They are running on the same treadmill, just more slowly with worse knees. The search for wisdom is itself a treadmill, promising that with enough understanding we can escape understanding's limitations. But we cannot think our way out of being human. Part 28. The Freedom Illusion. Freedom, the ultimate goal of modern life, turns out to be just another thing we adapt to. Studies of people who achieve financial freedom, location independence, or retirement all show the same pattern. The absence of constraints becomes its own constraint. Freedom from becomes desperate, searching for freedom too. The open road leads back to the same internal treadmill. People who achieve complete financial independence report unexpected psychological challenges. Without the structure of necessary work, they struggle to create meaning. Every action becomes a choice, and choice becomes exhausting. They spend their freedom trying to figure out what to do with freedom. Many return to work not for money, but for the relief of external structure. Freedom becomes a burden they pay to escape from. Digital nomads living the Instagram dream of working from beaches report high rates of depression and loneliness. They have adapted to travel, sunset views and flexibility. The beach in Bali becomes just another office. The freedom to work from anywhere becomes the obligation to constantly decide where. They end up creating routines and regular locations, rebuilding the structure they paid to escape. Political freedom shows similar adaptation patterns. People who escape oppressive regimes report initial euphoria that fades within years. The children of refugees cannot appreciate freedoms they have always known. Citizens of the freest societies in history feel as constrained as anyone ever has. We adapt to freedom so completely that we cannot perceive it. The absence of chains does not register as presence of liberty. Even psychological freedom through therapy or spiritual practice becomes normal. The person who overcomes anxiety adapts to the absence of anxiety. The addict who achieves sobriety adapts to clarity. These improvements in life quality do not translate to lasting happiness increases. Mental health becomes just health, invisible and unappreciated. We only notice our minds when they malfunction. The pursuit of freedom is itself a treadmill. Each constraint removed reveals another constraint beneath. Free from job, still bound by money. Free from money, still bound by relationships. Free from relationships, still bound by mortality. Free from fear of death, still bound by the structure of consciousness itself. There is no final freedom, only different levels of constraint to adapt to. Part 29. The Love Deception. Love, the emotion we trust most deeply, is not immune to hedonic adaptation. The person who was once your everything becomes just someone. The child you would die for becomes someone you argue with about screen time. The friend who understood you completely becomes someone you text occasionally. Love remains, but its intensity adapts like every other feeling. Brain scans of long-term couples show dramatically reduced activation in reward centers compared to new couples. The same kiss from the same person triggers a fraction of the neurological response. This is not falling out of love. It is adapting to love. The brain cannot maintain the intensity of early romance any more than it can maintain the high of any drug. We call this maturation, but it is really just tolerance. Parents adapt to loving their children with disturbing efficiency. The overwhelming love at birth that seems like it will define your entire existence becomes background emotion. You still love them, would still sacrifice anything for them, but moment to moment you feel irritation, boredom, frustration. The love that was supposed to make everything meaningful becomes invisible beneath daily logistics. The adaptation to love causes unique suffering. We expect love to be the one thing that does not fade. When it does, we think, something is wrong with us, our partner, our relationship. We do not recognize adaptation as natural and universal. So we end relationships that are actually successful, seeking to recapture an intensity that no brain can sustain. The failure is not in the love, but in the expectation that love would be different. Studies of arranged marriages versus love marriages reveal the ultimate irony. Arranged marriages start with low satisfaction that gradually increases. Love marriages start with high satisfaction that gradually decreases. After 5 years, both reach the same moderate satisfaction level. The path differs, but the destination is identical. Whether you adapt down from passion or up from pragmatism, you end up at the same emotional set point. Even self-love, the modern solution to relationship disappointment, follows adaptation patterns. People who learn to love themselves through therapy or personal growth report initial improvements. But self-acceptance becomes normal, requiring no less maintenance than any relationship. You adapt to being okay with yourself. The person who fought for self-worth must keep fighting to maintain it. There is no final arrival at self-love, only continuous effort to remember what you learned to feel. Part 30. The Only Truth. After examining every supposed escape from the hedonic treadmill, one truth remains. There is no escape. This is not pessimism or nihilism. It is simply what thousands of studies across decades have shown. We are adaptation machines, and adaptation is not a bug in the system. It is the system. The hedonic treadmill is not a problem to be solved, but a fundamental feature of consciousness. Without adaptation, we would remain frozen in our first experience of pleasure or pain. We would die of ecstasy from our first taste of sugar, or never recover from our first rejection. Adaptation is what allows us to function, to strive, to survive. The treadmill is not a trap. It is the mechanism of being alive. This does not mean life is meaningless or not worth living. It means the meaning is not in the arriving, but in the running. The satisfaction is not in the achievement, but in the achieving. The purpose is not in the destination, but in the movement. We run not because we will get somewhere, but because we are runners. That is what humans do. Some people find peace in this acceptance. Not the peace of happiness, which would itself be adapted to, but the peace of no longer expecting peace. They continue striving while knowing striving leads nowhere. They pursue goals while knowing goals do not satisfy. They love while knowing love will fade. This is not depressing but liberating. It frees you from the second layer of suffering, the suffering of expecting not to suffer. The research suggests that the best life is not the happiest but the most engaged, not the most satisfied but the most interesting, not the most peaceful but the most alive. The people who report the highest well-being are not those who have escaped the treadmill. They are those who have found a treadmill they do not mind running on, who have accepted the running as the point. Perhaps the ultimate wisdom is not transcending the hedonic treadmill, but choosing your treadmill wisely. Since you will adapt to anything, choose things worth adapting to. Since satisfaction is temporary, choose pursuits that remain interesting even when unsatisfying. Since happiness is fleeting, build a life that makes sense even when unhappy. The treadmill is not optional, but which treadmill you run on, how fast you run and who runs beside you, these are choices. Choose wisely, not because it will make you happy, but because you have to choose something. And then run, not toward happiness, but toward whatever keeps you moving. Because movement is all we have, and all we have ever had, and all we will ever have. The hedonic treadmill is not a bug. It is the feature. It is the whole thing. And maybe, just maybe, that is okay.